Coalition Podcast. Blackrootz here. Uh, yeah, man. So I just did a first watch on John Q. I know, yeah, surprising. I'm a black man that analyzes movies, and I've never seen John Q up until today at 2:30 a.m. on December 17th of 2025. Up until this point, I've never seen John Q. I only saw little clips here and there. I never caught it on TV if it was ever shown. I never sat down and watched it. Just didn't, it. I'm a huge Denzel Washington fan, but I just haven't seen all his work. So uh, decided to go ahead and watch it, and it's a really good movie, bro. Like, this is probably in which I'm sure a lot of people would say this. This is probably one of his top 10, if not top five performances of all time with his, with his career. You know, just wanted to speak on a couple of things. Just do a real quick review. I'm sure it's a lot more other movies that are well known that I haven't watched. So I might make this a regular thing, but this is the first time, so we're gonna see how this go. So I wanted to speak on a few characters slash actors in me. Some of the side actors. Kimberly Elise, I think that's her name. She played the wife. She did phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, in which all the movies that Denzel has a love interest, whether it's his spouse, his girlfriend, whatever, they do a really good job of picking the right person to play the right person. They casted her very well. I think showing a burdened mother, you know, not necessarily grieving, but worried about her son, and they showed that really well. And even in them working together, both Denzel and Kimberly, they showed a stressed married couple very well. And I know that from experience. I'm married, and it's not all stress, but it can get stressful. And I think that's probably the most stress that you can go through is watching your child, your only child at that, be that sick and possibly dying. In need of a donor and a new heart, and not having the money to pay for it. And to go over Denzel's character, I'm a father myself. I'm a black father. I'm black, as you can see. It's in the name. I get the stress of being not only a black man in America, but a black father in America. And so they showed that really well. I think that being Denzel's main motivation, he articulated that perfectly. He performed that perfectly. Even with the phone call that put everything into motion as far as him going into the hospital and sticking up the hospital. That phone call is a hard phone call to be on the other side of. You're the man of the house. You're the father, you're the husband, you're the head of the household. Everything falls on you. And what was being portrayed was a household that is probably considered middle class, low middle class, and going through a very hard time. He's down on his job. They fucking with his hours, and money not coming in like it should. They start showing them with the car getting towed. And that's difficult. That right there, in which they had another car, but going from two cars to one car and one was taken, that's hard. That's hella hard. So portraying that was perfectly, and I don't think that there could have been another two people that could portray that as well for this movie. Um, the doctor, in which I'm looking for his name now, James Woods, renowned actor. It's movies in my head. I just can't think of the names of them right now. But anytime I've seen him, he perform very well. In this, it was no different. He did a really good job. Just being a part of the system. It's a fucked up system to be a part of, but whether or not you contributed to it, you're part of the system. And I don't think his character was meant to be portrayed as like the evil doctor that, just won't do anything. He's bound by policy, like all of us are on the job. I know I've been in a position at a job where I could help somebody or I could follow policy. And it shouldn't necessarily come down to that, but sometimes it does. And I think they showed a very good display of how that can take place and the many chain reactions it can cause. But yeah, James Woods was really good in this movie. Who else? Dude from Ethan. I'm gonna fuck his name up. Suplee, whatever his name is. First time I saw him, the first time I personally saw him was in Boy Meets World. He played the bully, and probably the second time was Remember the Titans. So this is the second movie that I know of with both of them working together in it. And though it was a small part, much like it was a small part in Remember the Titans, he did a good job. He didn't have a whole lot of lines. You probably count on two hands how many lines he had, but the what needed to be portrayed was portrayed well, and he had a small little dialogue with one of the other characters. He's a security guard, and he just happened to be on shift when all of this pop off, and he's like, bro, I don't even have like, I'm not, and I'll get paid $8.50 an hour. I'm not about to die for this shit. And I fuck with it. I understand. I've been a security guard, an unarmed security guard. If anything pop off, I'm not doing much. I got a flashlight, maybe a whistle. Like, they unarmed posts as far as security. They don't give you much. In which one or two things happens in order for a post to be unarmed. Either it's in a safe work environment where they figure that not much will happen because of the facility or the grounds in which that's being secured. The placement of it is safe, or the environment of it is safe. Whatever it is, they feel that it's not dangerous enough to arm the guards. I don't agree with that. Anything can happen at any point in time. This man worked at a hospital, and what he perceived was a crazy gunman come in, waving a gun around with a doctor as a hostage. That's the first thing that he saw, and that's crazy to be a part of. Now, thank God, John Q was the person that he was, and we found out later that the gun wasn't even loaded. It was just for show to make his demands. But yeah, it can get crazy. So I appreciate what Ethan, what I'm not gonna mess his name up again. Ethan did in this movie. He was really good. To go up to, because I'm not gonna get everybody. Eddie Griffin. So for those who don't know, Eddie Griffin is a famous Black comedian. He was heavily active in the 90s and early 2000s, more so the early 2000s. He's had quite a bit of movies. If I could think of one, it's a movie called, I think it's, what is it? Deuce Bigalow. He was in both of those that I know of. I've never actually sat down and watched those movies in full, but I've seen them. And he did pretty good in that. He was less of a comedic relief in this movie and more so, he had a bit of comedy with him, but I think that's just him. But his presence in the movie did add a lighter to certain scenes. His last line in the movie was dope as hell to me. When John Q was being escorted out of the courthouse, he's standing off to the side and he's like, "Hey man, what did you say? Like keep your head up or something like that. You my hero." That was fire. That was fire as hell. I fuck with that. To see, oh, they had the scene. They did the switcheroo out the hospital, and he was the one that got arrested because he came out in John Q clothes. That was cold, you know. And then they had it even down to, because earlier when we first saw him, his hand was bleeding, and you know he had got his hand wrapped up and everything like that. When he came out of the hospital, he had the shirt on or the jacket, whatever it was, but he had his hand covered by the sleeve, so that way you couldn't see that it was bandages on it because he didn't want to give himself away. In which I don't think they really looked that hard into it in the first place, because I don't think had they even looked at his face, because I mean they had seen John Q's face at least twice, you know, him coming to the door or whatever. Unless you're just not paying attention, you just see a black man holding a gun in his hand, you're like, oh, that's him, you know. So but the switcheroo was dope with him. And nigga said when they were having a conversation with the dickhead dude that was beating on his lady, he said, man, you from the Slapaho tribe. We can all tell that. We can all see that. I think that was a funny line there, you know. But yeah, Eddie Griffin did a good job in this movie as well. There are others. I'm not gonna get into them just because it's. Oh well, there's a couple more. Ray Liotta, he played the chief, the police chief. He was in Goodfellas. That's my favorite movie that he's in. This is after Goodfellas. I think Goodfellas came out 97 or something like that. And he's the main character in that, in which his performance in that was crazy. But his performance in this was good as well. He did a really good job playing the I don't know if they were really trying to portray. I think they were just trying to portray a police chief, because usually when you see police chiefs in movies, you see him at the office. You know, you see him at the headquarters. You know, they're the one, whether it's them or the captain, they're the one barking the orders and making sure everything goes the way it needs to, or they're getting on somebody's ass about fucking up on a. See him out and about on the scene of a situation, I think that adds a little bit different than what I'm used to. He wasn't. Usually when you see police, that's another thing. Usually when you see police chiefs in movies, they're the feared guy. You know, they're the one that, hey, you don't want to get the police chief down here, he's gonna get on your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not looked at like everybody else is looked at. He's looked at as the higher being, you know. So but it seemed like he was a little bit more cool with, you know, the other officers, except for Frank the detective, and we'll talk about him in a second. But he seemed like he was a pretty well-liked guy, especially to be a police officer in New York. I think this is where the setting was. That was a little bit different. I've never seen a police officer liked at all in New York in a movie. And this came out 2002, so this is right after the 90s, where, you know, there was a lot of, how do I put it? There's a lot of negative outlook on the police, which I think there's always been, but in big cities, it's like real bad. And NYPD is notorious for police brutality and crooked cops and, you know, things of that nature. So to see him out and about and getting the cheers and whatnot that he got was different. I don't think it hurt the character at all, especially when it came down for him to put his foot down and everything like that. And he's a part of a system as well, you know. So his explanation on, you know, wanting to take the shot and it's an election year, all that shit, is it right? No. Do I understand it? Yes. It's just the system and how it works. You know, public perception is everything. You know, and that's his main thing of trying to not get perceived a certain way. Let me take these off because the reflection is crazy. But yeah, so let's see who else. Like I said, really did really good. Robert Duvall, he played Lieutenant Frank Grimes. So he played pretty much the negotiator. That's a bit different. I don't know if that's really accurate. Usually they have somebody that is the negotiator. It may be a lieutenant, but they usually don't. I don't know. I don't know if they usually put a lieutenant in that position on that type of scene. I've never seen them put a title to that or rank to that title, unless they're like the head negotiator. I like the back and forth between him and Denzel. I like him. It starts off him just going through the steps, trying to get to know him, trying to get to know the situation, trying to keep everything calm. And the switch happens when he tries to throw in one of those lines, one of those tactics. Whenever John Hughes says, "Oh yeah, I have a son," he's like, "Oh yeah, I got a 2 sons and 2 daughters." And Denzel's like, "Hey, motherfucker, I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. All right, don't try to handle me. Don't try to rub my back through all this shit. Nah, I'm on business right now. I don't care about your situation. I give a fuck about my situation, what I got going on." And Lieutenant Frank's response to that of trying to keep everything cool, but turning that handler shit off, I think that was dope. I think that his interaction between him and the police chief as well, I think that was a good dynamic they had going. I don't really fuck with you that much. I don't know why you up here. It seems like you breathing over my back, breathing on my neck. I don't like it. You for the cameras. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know why you here, but you fuck out my way and stay out my way. Pardon me. But yeah, I fuck with that. There was another one, black dude, black cop, Oba. Jesus. All right, Oba Babatunde. I did not know that was dude's name. I've heard Babatunde before. I've heard that name before. I didn't know it was a real person name. I thought it was like a joke or some shit. Dude name is really Oba Babatunde. That's insane to me. He played Sergeant Moody. He was the first one that you see in the tactical gear and whatnot. He's the one that's speaking to Frank a lot. He's the one that's going over the floor plan of how they're gonna go about taking the shot, all that shit, right? He didn't have a whole lot of lines. He probably had a little bit more lines than the security guard, but less than what a main character would have. But he was involved a lot. He was in the shit, a lot. So I enjoyed his performance as well. He didn't do a whole lot of much, but he was a part of the texture of what was going on. And, I think that's important to have the right people involved in the texture, even in the body language that they're portraying, just because it helps paint the scene for what's going on, what the situation is. So I fuck with that. There was one other one that I wanted to he was nurse Kevin Connolly. I know his face. I'm actually about to just go and look. His face is mad familiar. Like you, those well-known roles that he's had. I'm not seeing anything that I would know him from, but like I said, his face is extremely familiar. He played a narrator, or he had provided narration for a episode in 2013 for 30 for 30. I'm not sure for who. Ugly Truth. He played a voice in Robot Chicken. That doesn't help much. Antoine Fisher. He played Slim and Antoine. Okay, so another Denzel Washington movie. That's dope. One Denzel Washington movie to be able to be a part of is cool. Two even more dope. You know, it can only go up from there. Uh, damn, I really don't see it. I don't see anything that I would have known him from. Yeah, I don't see nothing. But he had a very familiar face. I think his role, you know, again, he's also a part of the texture, but he knows what's going on. You know, he was a part of the lead of the conversation that they were having in the lobby area. You know, when everything's calmed down and everything like that. And they're sitting there talking. They done had a bunch of snacks out of the vending machine and shit. And he kind of leads that conversation and putting everybody on to the system at hand and what goes on with these doctors and these insurance companies and these companies that buy the insurance from these insurance companies and you know the backstory to that and how the system was really fucked up with that, and which is part of what got us in this situation in the first place. You know, he doesn't necessarily come off as like a hippy dippy dude, but he comes off as, you know, somebody that knows what he's talking about and understands that this is not a conspiracy. This is what is happening because I work in this field. I may not be up there on the fifth floor like he said, but I'm in the shit. You know what I'm saying? Just as much as you, and I'm talking to the regular people more than you are, and I see the system at hand and what's at play. You know, I appreciate, you know, his performance with that. I appreciate his urgency that he was expressing whenever it came to bringing a person in or, you know, whatever it is. I think he did a really good job. I wish I knew more of what he was in. Like, I do watch Robot Chicken. I've never watched The Notebook. Probably never going to. Not mine. I'm not a part of that demographic. Yeah, but I know his face from something. I just can't think of what the fuck it was. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it for as far as I faces that I knew. Um, but yeah, the movie was really great, man. Like, it was a really good movie. I had like tears welling up multiple times throughout this. You know, especially when it's I got a daughter. You know, and I could not imagine that seeing that happen. You know, we kicking in. Yes, these little shit going on here, but it ain't got nothing to do with my kid. My kid is healthy. My kid is funny. You know, like, I love my kid. My kid loves me, and everything is just operating how it usually operate. And then just like that, just madness and chaos. You know, my kid drops in the middle of a baseball game. Like, that's crazy. He just smacked the ball. He's getting ready to steal second base. That's crazy. And I think the main part of this movie, I think, is struggle and struggle being a middle class worker, especially around that time, and even today, it's still tough. But being married, being the head of the household, trying to protect your kid from all the bad stuff, and you know sometimes you can't protect your kid from everything. Like, I think all of the things that were portrayed in this movie are really real life shit, and I think that's what makes it so good. Is these aren't things that are mysterious. You know, they happen to people every day. You know, parents lose their children to illness every day. You know, and sometimes they can pay for it to keep their children alive, but sometimes they can't, and that's what kills them. Sometimes that's the case. You know, and so I think with this movie being what it was, especially with how much it's been referred to and you know, I've heard about this movie damn near all my life, you know, and I think it was really good. I think it was really, really good. And I'm gonna watch this again probably soon. But yeah, I just wanted to give a general sweep over the movie. Yeah, man. This movie was dope. I'm not gonna give it a rating just because I think I would have to really watch it again to give it a accurate rating. But it's a heart tugger, man. It's a heart tugger for real, and I suggest anybody that hasn't watched this movie to go watch it. It's really really good. If you are, I don't want to say on the sensitive side, but if you're prone to tears in emotional movies, get some tissue, bro. Like I don't think my wife has watched this movie, and I'm not going to suggest it because she is a crier. For sure, she is a crier. She will not make it through this movie without breaking down and tears. So, but I think that's part of what makes the movie so good, So, yeah, man. John Q, Super Dad, Denzel Washington did great. Further solidified why I'm a Denzel Washington fan, and why I also think that once he's done, we ain't really got nobody else not to take his spot for real. In which that's not what you should be looking for, but we'll lose a lot. We'll lose a lot in our field of having black representation, excellent black representation, performing at that high of a level, and yeah, man, cool. Real Rap Coalition. I'm out this bitch.